now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Hello. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another incredible episode of Vigilantes Radio Live right here on iHeartRadio. And I am your host, Deanie. We have a very special guest for you guys, so you definitely want to stick around for that. And as a matter of fact, text your buddies, family members, or even share it on social media right now and let them know that we are about to dive deep into another interview. Before I bring my guest on, I do want to say, rather ask the question, what to do now? It's usually a waste of time and energy to put a lot of effort into assigning blame or determining who is at fault, because fault exists in the past and the past cannot be changed. Figuring out who is at fault will do nothing to improve the situation. What really matters is not who is to blame, but who is ready to take responsibility for moving forward. When you become too focused on who is at fault, you can easily lose sight of the positive actions that can be taken. Once you let go of the need to assign blame, you're much more likely to see the positive possibilities available to you. The thing to be concerned with is not, what happened, but what you're going to do about it. Put your focus not on about what should or should not have been done, but rather on the best of what can be done now. There is no sense in fighting battles that are already over. Instead, put your energy into finding and following the best of the choices that are now available to you, and let your thoughts be guided by the best that you can do, and you'll be creating a future that's the best that you can make it. My name is Coach Deanie, and change is possible. Are you ready?
Hi, I heard you need a website, custom design and looks fly. You need to get online in no time, cause you have a deadline. With Snazzy Sites, we'll bring your ideas to the screen. We're pretty fast too, with Vigilantes templates where there's nothing we can't build up. We'll make it shine, perfect website all the time. Snazzy Sites, fast and fresh, looking fine, you'll be online. Snazzy Sites, we'll make it shine, perfect website all the time. Snazzy Sites, fast and fresh, looking fine, you'll be online. Snazzy Sites.
If you're looking to create a stunning online presence, contact Snazzy Sites. We're the best designers in the business at bringing your vision to life. Visit snazzysites.com or call 980-383-8383.
Again, welcome to the show. You're listening to VRL, that's Vigilantes Radio Live, right here on iHeartRadio, and I am your host, Deanie. Tonight's episode is sponsored by Snazzy Sites. Snazzy Sites crafts stunning websites, blogs, and resumes that don't just look good, they get results. Whether you're growing a business, building a personal brand, or landing your dream job, Snazzy Sites has you covered. Start your transformation today over at snazzysites.com. Our interviews are designed to go beyond the music, news, books, art, acting, films, technology, education, entrepreneurship, entertainment, spirituality, and sometimes even past that thing that we call the ego. Our interviews are designed to go behind the scenes and into the minds of these incredible human beings. The ones who are out there giving it their all for me, for you, and for the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, some authors write stories, others create entire worlds. Enter Allen Lyle, a masterful storyteller and debut novelist who fuses sci-fi imagination, historical curiosity, and fantasy grandeur into one unforgettable narrative. With his book, Red Sun Shining, Allen invites readers into your Europa, a place where kings wield platinum swords, churches worship death, and ambition can build empires or destroy them. Inspired by Byzantium, gaming, and late-night epiphanies. Allen's voice is fresh, bold, and franchise-ready. So if you love complex characters, ancient tech, and morally gray power plays, this one is for you. And with that, let's say welcome, friend, to Allen Lyle. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Deanie, I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Absolutely, Allen. Welcome to the show once again. Before we crack open the lure of Red Sun Rising, what's been heavy or even hopeful on your mind lately?
Yeah, well, personally, things are going really, really well for me. I got this book coming out I'm very excited about. It's a career I didn't expect to get into, and now that I'm in it, I very much love it. So, that's going great. I have a great wife, great family, great friends. That's all doing good. But if we're talking about what's weighing heavy on me, there's definitely some stuff going on I'm not the biggest fan of. I am very passionate about books, passionate about libraries, and we've had some issues with that with the government. The Institute of Libraries and Museums just got its budget cut. The DOE is getting cut. They're cutting training funds for teachers. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that's designed to not get books in people's hands. And really, at the end of the day, that's all I want to do. That's my whole goal with this, is just to get more people reading. So, I hope I've done my part in that with Red Sun Rising here.
Indeed. Yeah, it is quite alarming. First they stop writing with writing utensils in school, and now they are limiting access to books. Seems like they want us in the dark ages once again.
Yeah,
but that's neither here or there. But
yeah, we don't need to get too heavy on. But yeah, right. just help libraries, help schools. That's my statement there.
Indeed. So you mentioned that you're now on this new path, this new career. So how did you go from late night gamer to full-fledged novelist?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a meandering path. I went to school in Tennessee for music production, bounced around the music industry for a few years, didn't really make any money in that industry, and unfortunately you've got to have money to survive, so ended up in recruiting for about a decade, which was a fun journey. Ended up I was in tech recruiting for a while. Tech was very unstable, got laid off twice in 11 months, and my mom has always told me to write a book. My wife has also been very vocal about that, and I suddenly found myself with a lot of time on my hands, so I figured, hey, why not just give it a go here. I wrote a rough draft that was absolutely terrible. My wife helped me fix it up. We sent it off to Chris Lambert and Moon Publishing, and they really helped me develop it into a story. So it has certainly been a group effort here.
Indeed. What do you think was the delay with getting the book started?
I never thought I could do it. I always told my mom she was just being too nice. I was like, yeah, you think I could do anything. It's very sweet that you would say that, but there's no way I could. And sort of the same thing with my wife, but she is such a, intelligent and an incredible woman. She's a writer herself. She writes children's books, which are available on Amazon and any other bookseller, Morgan Swank. She's also done television writing. So I just had a partner that I could really bounce ideas off of, who could kind of help me develop a story in a way that I don't think I could have done alone. So, yeah, I think that was the big delay. I didn't think I could do it, and I found someone who helped me to do it.
Yes, indeed. And I have a lot of authors, young authors who want to be doing what you do. And me personally, I know that inspiration doesn't necessarily make you get up and do something. You can be inspired from the couch all day long, and how many ideas that you go through that you don't act upon. But what was the defining moment that made you not only get inspired, but have that kick of ambition that really got you up to write this book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, I'm in my 30s, so I think I have kind of a good perspective at this point. And I would say that I approach writing in the way that I did, my other careers as well. It's day in, day out, daily effort. It's something where you have to be persistent with it. I can count on, I've written this book. I've finished the rough draft of the second book, and I can definitely count on, one hand the number of times I've, shot up off the couch and said, I have to write right now. So it's really just sustained effort. But I would say there's a scene in this book. I don't want to spoil anything, but I wrote it and I was kind of reading it, and it really tugged at my heartstrings. It was like something I wrote, and it was just the first moment I felt like, I think people are going to, get emotional about this scene. I think I can actually do this. So, that was kind of the watershed moment for me. But yeah, I mean, it really is, the message I would have is like, it's all about persistence.
Yeah, you got goosebumps, didn't you?
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah.
I felt kind of arrogant about it. I was like, I'm getting goosebumps from my own writing, But yeah, I absolutely did.
That's that magic, man. That's when you're in that moment, that drive, that sweet spot. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Red Sun Rising started as a Crusader Kings 3 campaign. What was the spark that turned gameplay into storytelling?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I had always kind of had like ideas bouncing around my head, and Red Sun Rising, the way it really started was I was just kind of daydreaming one day, and I thought, if knights were in like the modern age, I bet their squires would basically be like posting videos on YouTube, like in Instagram and TikTok, like they would be like video squires. And then I thought, video squires, that's kind of cool. And so I started kind of like roughly thinking about the world and like what that would look like. And I didn't have any framework. And so funnily enough, yeah, it was a Crusader Kings 3, which is a game where you kind of play as, a count or a duke or whatever in the Middle Ages. You can kind of do whatever you want to do. And I had a really fun campaign, and I was unemployed. I think that doesn't even need to be said if I'm, writing about video games. But I kind of had a long campaign. I was writing it down what happened, and then I kind of went, oh wow, this is a framework for the story and the world I've been kind of daydreaming about. So yeah, I don't think many authors can say that they've had the same inspiration, but it worked for me.
It did. So let's talk about Europa. You have a love for history. How did you find the base for this land?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the interests I've always had have always been, science fiction and fantasy, and history, So when I was kind of thinking about, what sort of book I wanted to write, I really wanted it to be inspired by history. And I wanted it to tell, the same sort of stories that you read in history, right? Of like, everybody has a reason for doing the things that they do. So I already kind of knew like, this needs to be based on history. And I think I've also always really liked post-apocalyptic books. So I think that kind of, found its way into the work. And I started thinking, all right, well, how could I be, somewhat unique with that? And that's kind of where Europa came from. I was basically thinking, let's say after the apocalypse happens, and humanity's struggling for survival, and they survive, they make it through the apocalypse. What would society then look like, 500 years, 1,000 years after that? So that's kind of where I was able to marry, my love of post-apocalyptic fiction and science fiction and fantasy with history. So it's heavily based on Europe in the Middle Ages. For this first book, it is definitely supposed to take place on Earth. So yeah, it's what I've been calling it is post-apocalyptic fiction. So it's post the post.
Yeah. You mentioned before that power can destroy love. Can you unpack that idea further and how it plays out in one of the characters' sacrifices, without giving anything away, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is I don't think it's a particularly like revolutionary take, right? I think we see it all over the place. But for me personally, it was sort of thinking about, the lives of the extremely rich and powerful, and kind of what their personal lives are like. And I think they're very lonely. And I think that's a decision that they've made. You choose power over love. So that was sort of the thesis of like what's going to be the central struggle of this book. So the main character, his name is Duquesne de Bordeaux. He comes from a disgraced family in like a really minor, backwater county, right? So for him, it was, this development of like, when you are motivated to sort of rise up from your circumstances, what are you going to have to sacrifice in the name of achieving power? And then more importantly, what to continue gaining power and to keep that power, what are you going to lose? And, from what I see and believe in the real world, I think what you lose is love. So his story is very much that story of, what he's willing to sacrifice and how far he's willing to go to get what he thinks will make him happy.
And this is the character Duquesne.
Yep, the main character of the book.
Yeah. So he has a lot of ambition, but with ambition comes consequences sometimes. How do you feel about Duquesne, like personally?
Yeah, I certainly, I think with a lot of authors, the main character, they kind of, write themselves into the book, which is certainly not a bad thing to do. But I very much hope that no one thinks I'm like Duquesne, just because of the way that he conducts himself. But at the same time, what I really wanted to do for everyone in this story is you understand the reasons behind what they do. Even if you don't agree with them, you can at least say, I see how you would get here. So I certainly think there's admirable traits about Duquesne, how he treats a lot of his friends, the loyalty that he shows at the beginning of the book, his, need and desire to sort of improve his kingdom and his holdings. I think that's all great. But yeah, as a whole, I think he's a somewhat morally gray character. I think I think you'll root for him as a reader, but at times you'll be like, man, what are you doing here?
Yeah. So is there a world beyond Europa?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the second book that we're working on right now, we're going to get much more into sort of what's happening in Africa. More northern Africa specifically. So I'm really excited about that. I've certainly read a lot of history about that region, which was really, really interesting, especially, from my educational backgrounds. Growing up here in Georgia, we don't learn a lot about that. We learn much more about Europe. So it's really cool being able to dig into that. So you'll get to see tastes of that in the second book and the third book as well. Beyond that, I'm leaving it a little bit up in the air, right? Like the apocalypse has happened. I don't think every continent has survived. But, I'm still kind of developing that out. We'll sort of see where that all goes.
Wow. So this could turn into like a period of exploration or discovery of past new lands, if that's a term to use.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can only imagine that you have some giant map somewhere. Like, how deep does the lore rabbit hole for this series go? How deep?
Yeah, I definitely have. I made a map for it, and we're actually going to include a map in the book, which I'm really excited for. We're working with some very talented artists. One of my favorite things when I open a new book is, seeing a map. That always gets me excited. So, yeah, definitely a big map guy over here. But yeah, I have a lot of ideas. I want the series itself. We're hoping for 6 books. We'll kind of see how everything goes. But I want the series itself to take place over a pretty long period of time, right? So you get to see how the society develops and, meet, or see other interesting locations. So yeah, I got a lot of ideas, a lot of history to draw from. So yeah, I think there's some pretty exciting opportunities here in the future.
Indeed. And I get excited about maps too. I learned my lesson with the N64 Majora's Mask, the Zelda game. And yes, from that day forward, maps are extremely important.
Yeah, maybe our generation kind of, we all got implanted with that idea because of Majora's Mask.
Yeah. Man, so you've read a ton of books and even novelized movies to study the craft. What books or authors were your biggest teachers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of it does go back to my childhood. Growing up, I've always been a nerd. That's not some new development. Pretty much since the day I was born, I was a nerd. So I was very much into Dungeons and Dragons, like Forgotten Realms. I was really into Warhammer, and then of course Lord of the Rings. So that was kind of the baseline that I got. But as I kind of grew older, I started really branching out. So I would say the people that influence me currently. The Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons is like my favorite. It's 2 books, but they're my favorite books of all time. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler is another one I really, really enjoy. Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel is another great one. And then The Scar by China Miéville. that is super inspirational on me. He and Jeff Vandermeer and a couple other people are part of what they call weird fiction, which is like this crazy marriage of science fiction and fantasy and steampunk and all this stuff. So I've definitely really been impressed by people who can create worlds that I consider to be very unique.
Indeed, indeed. Red Sun Rising has this cinematic quality. Do you have visions beyond just literary? Do you see this transferring to maybe audiovisual?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could. I'm obviously right now, I just hope people buy the first book, right? I'm a very day-by-day guy, one day at a time. That's brought me a lot of success, in terms of that's how I think about things, right? But yeah, I certainly do think it could. I would love to see it in whatever form it might take. If you're asking me personally, I think like a Red Sun Rising animated series would be one of the coolest things of all time. But yeah, and I know Moon has definitely had some success. The publishing company I work with, they've had some success in television as well. So yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. But like I said, I'm trying to just sell this first book before I think about all that.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So for readers who pick up Red Sun Rising and journey through the ruins of empires with Duquesne, what's the one thing you hope lingers with them after they turn the last page?
I really just want them to say, man, that was cool. That is honestly how I write. My writing begins with, wouldn't it be cool if, and then I think of an idea. So I really hope it's a satisfying story to them, but I hope it's interesting. I hope they can recognize all the inspiration from all the different sources that this book was basically created by, and that there's something in it for everybody, particularly for people who read a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, and anything like that.
All right, and where can people pick up a copy of the book?
Yeah, you can just go to allenlyleauthor.com. You can pre-order the book there. I know we were running a special on if you pre-order the book, you would get some tarot cards. That was for like the first some 100 or 200 that we sold. That might be gone, but if you come to any of my book signings, I'll definitely give you some tarot cards.
All right. What's your relationship with tarot cards?
Yeah, my wife loves it. I love the art behind it. I think it's really cool. I find kind of like mysticism in general, I find it very interesting. I like to learn about it. I'm not sure if I'm like the biggest believer in any of it, but it's a fascinating subject, and it's something that humans have been doing for a really long time. So I love the whole vibe behind it. But yeah, it's the art. I love looking at different decks. There's so many talented people that do this stuff. So it's cool to see everybody's vision.
Indeed. All right, guys, we will have the link in the description of this episode and in the show notes. So all you guys have to do is just click those links, get those pre-orders in, and get your tarot cards if while supplies last. And of course, you can come to the public book signings and get them in person, which is even cooler. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Allen Lyle, an author who doesn't just write fantasy, he revives and reinvents it. Today we'll explore the heart of Red Sun Rising, the blurred lines between ambition and morality, and what it takes to build a saga that spans centuries and genres. All right, thank you so much, Allen. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You too, man. I really appreciate, what you do here. I've definitely listened to the show. I love your consistent messaging. I love the people you platform. So thanks again for having me on, and keep doing what you do.
All right. Thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too.
Peace to all. My name is Deanie, and I am the host of Vigilantes Radio Live. I think that we are beyond just asking cool questions and getting cool responses. I think that we are here as creatives to provide an example that you can do things different outside of expectations, because some of us simply were not born into the club, but there is perhaps a door, window, or back gate that we can leave a clue for you to get into. Life is short, but there are plenty of moments to try and get it right. Pursuing your dreams and learning from mistakes may be tough, but regret is tougher. To book your interview, email us at vradio at onlyonemediagroup.com. That's a V as in victorious. Or visit onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm counting on you. Heaven, we all are counting on you to step into your purpose and your passion. You are listening to Vigilantes Radio Live on iHeartRadio, providing you with an opportunity to dive deeper.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.